cutback for Vasilev, and Lukic! A banger of a strike for Jovan Lukic's first MLS goal!
It's fallen out to Westfield! Oh, wow! He's nearly taken the roof of the net off! Philadelphia pounce again!
Who gets his goal on his Union debut? The record signing, off and running in his first appearance for the club. Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And yes, we do have a 2025 MLS Cup champion, and it should be to nobody's surprise that it is Inter Miami. Lionel Messi, Sergio Busquets, and the gang go off with a trophy to end their 2025 season as Alba and Busquets go off to retire. There's rumors out there that Luis Suarez potentially going to Nacional, opening up potential roster spots for Inter Miami to get younger. We shall see. I know that Don Garber had his end of the season MLS State of the League. We will not be addressing that, nor will we talk about the World Cup draw. There were so many draws or so many episodes. After the draw, there were so many people talking about the World Cup when this draw was complete. So we'll leave that for you guys to go ahead and listen to this podcast. I know the Union did one. So we're going to try to speak specifically just on the Philadelphia Union. But regardless, Jose, how are you doing? How was your weekend?
Busy. I actually have some family downstairs, and that's why we're going to keep it, I promise you, to a tight 45 minutes today, Todd. I had a surprise birthday party for my wife. Her birthday was on December 2nd, which was not an easy date to do anything, especially with kids during the week, etc. So we had a little surprise party with 25 people here. So the last bit of them are actually downstairs, and they know that I'm up here. So likely probably listening to me just yap about soccer. So other than that, busy week, man. It's funny, right? We always talk about, off season. People think it's going to be quiet. It's like, nope, it just keeps on rolling. And I think today's a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I remember us sitting here last year doing the same thing, pretty much week in, week out, doing the podcast because there was so much news, and clubs don't sleep just because the season's over. They're constantly working behind the scenes, and they're constantly working throughout the season for previous or next season's coming up, and it's no difference for the Philadelphia Union. So we have a bit of news to talk about in terms of player signings that are now official, new players potentially joining the club. We'll talk about that, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the end of the season press conference with Bradley Cornell and director of the academy, John Shear. That press conference was on Wednesday. Real quick, want to give a shout out to the University of Maryland for a fantastic season. Henry Bernstein scores the Lone Terps goal, and the Terps 3-1 loss to Washington Huskies. Washington finally gets the better of Maryland when it matters most, really. Really great game between the two sides. I know NC State maybe is the favorite to win the College Cup, but I don't know that Washington side. I had texted you, Jose. I said the winner out of Maryland or Washington's probably going to wind up winning the College Cup. Let's see if that happens. But yeah, college soccer is still going on, even though MLS Cup is done. So if you guys are still trying to get your soccer fix in, go ahead and check out college football, college soccer, whatever you guys want to call it, because the next games coming up are on Saturday, I believe, and then the final is going to be next Monday. But regardless, let's go ahead and talk about what is finally official with the Philadelphia Union. They announced the signing of Ezekiel Alado from Sweden for a club record fee of $4.5 million, signed through 2028 with options through 2030. And it's got to feel good, right, Jose? Something that you reported on a month ago, finally official by the club, finally gets over the line. And the Union, back-to-back seasons that they break their transfer fee record.
Yeah, it's cool to see, right? You sort of work these leads and you work the reporting, etc. You put it out there, and there's some skepticism, which is fine. I get it, but I think it's I like to think that I built a reputation, excuse me, for only sharing when I know things are going to happen. So glad to see Alado come through. I think many are sort of seeing him as immediate replacement for Ua. So we'll see what happens in those negotiations. But all I can say from talking to people and certainly watching clips of the play, not just the goals, because there technically weren't many in his time in Sweden. He is just he's an unbelievable north south runner, very much like Mikael Ua in terms of what he can do to stretch the field. But what he's also excellent at is the hold up play. He does an incredible job of leveraging this massive frame of his to um, hold the play, tilt the play from left to right, from right to left, and just make everybody around him better. So I'm intrigued to see how he sort of develops. I'm also intrigued to see what this roster build looks like with him and Bruno at the same time, or maybe alternating between the two of them, because we did learn that there's no U.S. Open Cup for Philadelphia. I think that was more or less something that we knew. Uh, but there will be CONCACAF and I'm guessing likely Leagues Cup. So it's going to be a very busy year for Philadelphia this year. So glad to see that reinforcements are happening. I know we're going to talk about one more later.
Yeah, we absolutely will. But real quick, I want to go ahead and just get some stats information out there. So I saw some negativity from people once the union announced the signing. And I remember when you announced that the union were finalizing this deal about a month ago, Jose, people were complaining about his goal scoring record: 8 goals in 32 appearances, 1 assist in 2,348 minutes. And here's the thing, right? He's 20 years old. And players are, when they're that young and everything, you don't expect world beaters at that age, because if you're gonna get a striker that's scoring 10 plus goals, then Ezekiel's easily gonna go for $8+ million. And let's not forget that there were teams in the championship linked with him, a couple teams in Belgium linked with him, and the Philadelphia Union. To see them beat clubs like that, I know Leicester was one of the clubs that was interested in him, and we know Julian Kranz is there on loan from Feyenoord, and I think seeing Leicester linked with Ezekiel tells you how they feel things are going in their striker department. And so to see the Union go out here and have a competitive offer, and again, you see the negativity online where people are like, oh, well, 4.5 million, that's barely a high fee compared to most clubs in MLS. That's barely higher than what most clubs are paying in MLS. And still, I think the Union need to be applauded for being ambitious, for going out there, having good scouting, and finding a player that I would imagine Jose only signing a 3-year deal. Yes, you have the option to pick up the option in 2029 and 2030, but a player that's this young, this player that has progressed at each of his steps in Ghana, in Sweden, and now hopefully in America with the Philadelphia Union. I would imagine he doesn't stay in Philadelphia for 5 years. If he has a good, let's say, 2 years, then the Union are going to be hoping that they get $10+ million, and that's totally fine. That's totally fine, because if you can double your profit, and there's rumors out there too with Macania. And look, we had talked about that, Jose, where we don't expect Macania to be here past next season because of how well he had a 2025 season. And yes, it was a little bit out of the ordinary with the Union picking up his options. But if Macania has another good year, then the Union are probably going to sell him. And people are going to get tired of us saying it time and time again. This is a selling club, and there's some fans that are fine with it. There's some that aren't. And I think I have a clip that I'm going to play with John Shearer laying that out, that we are a development club. They're not hiding. The Union aren't hiding who they are. They're completely buying into who they are. They're doubling down on it. And to see fans still upset that, oh, you're going to buy this player and you're going to sell him in a couple years, and you just see so much negativity. But again, I mean, I get tired of bringing it up on the podcast. This is how the rest of the world operates, Jose. They go and buy players, then they go into the next club. You go and hopefully make a profit. They go into the next club. It is how the world of soccer works.
And that's just it. There are very few clubs in the world that can say they're not development clubs, right? I would think of in a way, close to my heart in a way, Manchester City, right? Totally not a development. Sure, you have Phil Foden and some other guys that came through, but the reality is that, like, you're not seeing a squad of 5 or 6 guys that came through the academy. You're not seeing a squad of guys that are there for more than 4 or 5 years, unless you're a Sergio Aguero, which at the point you were, that's a player that was so close to winning a World Cup, right? So at the peak level. So I don't. It's I very much get hung up on that argument too, Todd, much like you do, and in the same way I get hung up about the argument of, well, we got to pick up players with that don't go on international breaks. It's like, well, then you're not picking the best players to represent the country, right? To represent the club, I should say. So you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot when you're trying to build a team of potentially winning MLS Cup, but not being willing to willing to have the bad with the good. So I'm excited to see what this guy can do. I'm excited to see. I'm just excited to see what lengths I'm going to go through to watch this guy in preseason when it comes to them being away once again. And again, we'll talk about that later too. But um, only 76 days until I guess the MLS season starts, but even less than that, January 17th, I think, until we talk more and see more from them in Spain.
Yeah, absolutely. And just real quick before we get out of Alado, the Union, like I said, $4.5 million fee that they paid. He will take up an international roster slot, which the Union currently have 5 players taking up spots in Alado, Damiani, Danley, John Jock, Lukic, and Makanya. And the one thing, and I see Vince, your comment here, we're about to play a clip. It was not mentioned in the press release if Alado will be a U22 or ADP. And so here's what the director of the academy, John Shearer, had to say in regards to the Union not listing that.
Yeah, we have until roster compliance in February to make those final roster designations. So we're going to take our time and evaluate all what's best for us in our situation. But we have some time still to decide as it relates to this.
And so the Union have until the start of the 2026 MLS season to go ahead and declare their roster delegations, their roster spots, where they want to line up. Last season, we know that the Union chose the 3DP, 3U22 model with Damiani and Uwa being the 2 DPs and Makanya and Quinn Sullivan being the 2 under 22s. And so just real quick, I want to go ahead and mention, if people aren't really caught up to date with roster rules, how the salary cap works. Well, last year, any players that were U22s, age 20 or younger, they carried a salary budget charge of $150,000, with players the age of 21 to 25 carrying a $200,000 charge. Now, if you were a designated player, age 24 or older, you carried a maximum salary budget charge of $743,750. The clubs can use GAM to buy that down all the way down to $150,000. And so the Union, do they want to go that U22 route? Do they want to go that DP route? Because it all depends on, okay, how they want this to hit the salary. We saw last year too, if you went the 4 DP model, that teams had the potential to earn up to $2 million extra in GAM. And so that's always intriguing to me, Jose, especially a team that's not going to go out there and spend a ton of money like the Union. I could see as much GAM as possible being beneficial to a team like the Union. I think in general, I think $2 million in GAM, that's beneficial to any club. And so we'll see what happens. But also too, I do want to make a point, and this is my bad. In the article that I had wrote about the signing of Alado, I guess I kind of alluded that the roster rules are still going to be the same next season. And we don't know that yet. MLS hasn't said what the roster rules for 2026 is going to be. Do they completely change it up? And I know teams, I know fans want a higher salary. Do they change these models up? We shall see. But if MLS did decide to keep everything in place, what they did in 2025, that is the latest. That is the salary budget charge. Anything you want to add there, Jose, before we move on to this deal with the Union finalizing?
No, nothing to add. I think it'll be an interesting couple of months. As I think um, the calendar flip sort of has thrown a lot of different things into the mixer to sort out, and I think this is one of those things. And also contracts, which again we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, we can go into that. I mean, it's a good segue. I did have that up next. So This is something again that you and I talked about last show, and maybe we've talked about it before that as well. But how is MLS going to handle player contracts for that shortened 2027 season? I know you had reached out to the club, you were waiting on a response back. And so it just so happened to be that the union had this end of the season press conference, and they had announced Alado the same day as this press conference. And so you were able to work your question around this new signing. And this is what John Shear said in terms of how salaries will potentially work for 2027 during that shortened season.
What the contract date through is has been reported. This is something that we're working through in terms of all of our signings and trying to navigate the new landscape of MLS and what the next year and beyond will look like. So that's something that's ongoing and it's active in our discussions with our leadership team.
So basically, we don't know yet. As nice of an answer as John gave you, that we're not sure yet. We're still working through this.
No, and John was incredibly kind with his answer. He said what he had to say, right? It's the date that's reported is what's reported, which notoriously obviously just says 2027, doesn't even say through the 2027 season. It just literally says 2027, 28, 29, which is great because I take that as calendar years. So, it doesn't matter for a player like Alado, and in technicality, I don't think it'll matter for a player like Olwethu, but there is a real possibility that across the league, as it stands right now, there are many players that are not internationally bound, meaning transfers to jump to another league, that genuinely just have a contract through the first half of the 2027 regular season, which comes 2-3 months after the sprint season, the 14-game season. So there are some teams right now, again, this is as it stands or as it's been reported or the knowledge that we have, where a starting center back could literally just play through December and that be part of Real Salt Lake or the Seattle Sounders from January 1 onwards till the end of the season. So to me, it's just mind-boggling that this is a detail that needs to be sorted out. Maybe it is sorted out and they're not ready to talk about it as they're waiting for a press release or the last bit of negotiating with not just players, but also the players' union. I also wonder, and this is where my brain goes in the business side. How do you even calculate bonuses for 2027? Right? How do you calculate bonuses for technically a whole season in the sprint season and half a season in the regular season? That's the rest of 2027. My brain just, I can't wrap my head around how some of these contracts are going to work. And honestly, like, I don't think that the players, as it stands right now, have any need to really renegotiate. They could say, screw it. Like, this is what I'm staying through. And, that's, it is what it is, So I'm sure that there's a bigger hand at play here in the MLSPA because they're all members of it. But I'm fascinated with this type of stuff. So I apologize for my obsession behind it. This is the goofy business side of things that really catches my attention.
Yeah, I think it comes to no surprise, people that have listened to you and I doing the podcast for, I don't know, I feel like pretty consistently the last year. You and I do enjoy talking about the CBA. We do enjoy talking about the roster rules, which I know is not what everybody wants to hear. I know that it's a little bit too much for people, but to try to get the best understanding of this league, yeah, you try to make yourself as informed as you possibly can. And it's not always possible with MLS. It feels like it's constantly changing, especially the last year. And you and I had both praised MLS, Jose, with their transparency, with releasing the roster guides and letting teams know, okay, this is the players that are on TAM deals, the players that are on homegrown deals. This is how they're setting up the roster. This is how much GAM they have available. And so we've appreciated the transparency from MLS the last year and a half, and hopefully it continues. But I'm with you. It does seem a little bit concerning that we don't have an answer yet how contracts are going to work. As Vince points out right here, that this is probably something that's going to need to be negotiated with the MLSPA. I do agree with you, Vince, and we shall see what happens. And I also get your point too, Jose, that if you're the players, play hardball. Why not? The league plays hardball with you. So it shall be interesting to see what happens. And uh, you had joked, Jose, that shortened season, you're gonna have that little asterisk on it. Whoever wins MLS Cup, and wouldn't that be typical Philadelphia Union if they come away winning a trophy after a 14-game regular season? Oh my God, can you believe that? That would not be good. But
As big of an asterisk as the first Shield, unfortunately, right through the shortened COVID season and all the mess that it was. So yeah, it's just I I just wonder about this stuff, and it's you're right. It's you just gotta put your shoulder into it and learn about it if you really want to enjoy this league. I know people hate it and it's mocked about in this about this league across the world, but this is what makes it so different and so interesting. And you're right. It's I mean the way it's shaped out right now, it's play 14 games, have a nice break, and then come back and play again, and it's it's still getting paid the same. I'm just so I want to know more about what's going to happen. This is where I wish those parachute reporters in the national sense would pay more attention to. Report on this, like tell me more about this rather than just showing up to one market for literally 20 seconds and then disappearing.
yeah, that's what I don't understand. Like, this should be a bigger topic than I mean, to be frank, you're the only one who I've seen question this on social media. Nobody big nationally I'm seeing talking about this, or other people, other journalists in other markets I'm not really seeing talk about this. And I'm sure, like anything, eventually it's going to blow up on social media, and then everybody's going to talk about it, just how things go. And you're at the forefront of it right now, Jose. And then people are going to eventually come around and say, oh, yeah, this is a good point. I didn't think about this. And then you have some people say, "Oh, I came up with this idea first. I'm the first one to be talking about this." And it's like, "Whoa, let's slam on the brakes. Not so fast." Jose Nunez has the receipts. And one other thing I do want to talk about before we move on to this deal that the Union are finalizing. I know Jose and I haven't talked about the calendar change. We will talk about that. We haven't talked about the 2026 season yet. We'll talk about that again at some point during the off season. But again, I feel like there's just things that are too important to talk about where we can go ahead and brush those off to the side. Because again, I think a lot of people have given their thoughts on the calendar change. And Jose and I really haven't talked about that. Maybe you have a little bit on social media, Jose. I can't remember. It's been a couple weeks since MLS announced that. But yeah, we decided let's go ahead and let that die down, and we'll talk about that later. And that will come in an eventual podcast. But let's go ahead and talk about this deal, Jose. I'll let you go ahead and talk about this because I saw that you also reported on this after CL Marlowe. Good.
Yeah, the Philadelphia Union finishing up a deal to bring Genier Martinez from Juventud and Uruguay to the Union on a 3-year deal with an option for a fourth. I don't have anything on the fee, and frankly, I'm not too interested since it seems to be such a low. I'm guessing it's a very very low fee, but interesting depth. Many will probably immediately hone in on the fact that maybe they think this is a replacement for Owethu. I don't think so, at least not yet. My guess is that something overwhelming and shocking would have to come through the desk of the decision makers, which there's apparently 4 or 5 of them at the Union right now when it comes to player sales in a way. It's just it's going to have to be an incredible number for them to let Owethu go right now. So added depth, added player, maybe thinking beyond Glesnes at this point. Maybe it's as Shaggy Meg Shagster, what a ridiculous name, I love it. Says maybe it is to sort of play the Glavinovic role, which by the way, he did I'm trying to put my finger on it and figure out where it is, but he did do a radio interview Friday at some point where he talked about the Union. I have some written quotes from it, but I want to listen to the whole thing. Man, the dude really wanted to play here. It was pretty telling. So, yeah, got off topic, but yeah, Union bringing in another young South American. You are muted, Todd.
Michael says here, am I incorrect? Was it a 3-year contract? And yeah, that's what CL Merler is reporting. That's a 3-year contract with a 4th year
Yes.
option. 22-year-old center back. And Yeah, I don't think this is a replacement for Makanya. I don't think this is a replacement for Glesnes because you had mentioned earlier the Jose CCC play for the Union, MLS play. Obviously, we would imagine Leagues Cup. Haven't heard anything on that yet, but we do know no U.S. Open Cup, so there is going to be a significant amount more games for the Union this season, and the Union do pretty well. I feel like getting out of the first game in CCC, they do good getting out of the second, making their way to the semifinals. So yeah, they could potentially play a significant amount of games leading up to that May final in CCC with all the MLS games that they're going to play. And then the second half of the season gets interesting because you take that long break because of the World Cup. And then you're playing a game, it seems like every 3-4 days in the second half of the schedule. Again, I know Jose and I haven't shared our thoughts on that, and we will when the time comes. But yeah, I think this is a solid deal for the Union. 32 appearances for Martinez at Juventud, 25 starts, 2 goals, helped keep 14 clean sheets and 2,341 minutes played. Prior to that, he was with Central Espanol in the second division in Uruguay, appearing in 17 games, 17 starts, 2 goals, kept 5 clean sheets in 1,500 minutes. And the thing that's interesting is Juventud have sold 2 center backs in the last 6 months. One to Lyon for $870,000, and then one to Union Santa Fe for $724,000 in Argentina. And so, for a club that's now on the verge of selling a third center back in the last 6 months, I think that has to be credit to the club for obviously doing a good job scouting. Because if you're selling 2 center backs prior, and now you're selling a third one, seems like you know what you're doing defensively. It seems like you know what you're doing scouting. If teams are coming to you, buying your players, especially young center backs, and yeah, for the Union's sake, they're going to hope that Martinez winds up being a successful signing. And I think this is something that makes you happy. I know it makes me happy, Jose, seeing the Union continuing to hit South America. I feel like there's just so much untapped potential there, and I know a little bit biased on your end. You want to see Bolivia a little bit more, maybe. But yeah, to see the Union hit up South America, I think this is long overdue, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and it's somebody made this point. I didn't even think about it, but the same day that the news break, whether it's through Merlo and Merlo and I, whatever, the same day that Martinez is being rumored to go to the Union or about to make his way to the Union, Jose Martinez scores. So it goes to show again that the Union just are the scouting's great. They are certainly tapping into every possible market, just looking at everybody. Um, and it wouldn't shock me just to continue to see just off the wall, beaten path signings and players that the Union end up bringing in. So I'm sure there's more to come. I can't imagine that they're all done.
Yeah, and I would imagine that this would take up another international roster slot for the Union, leaving them with 2. And then the Union's roster would be at 25. They would have 4 center backs on the roster, just like they had last year prior to Jan getting injured. So could the Union go out there and potentially sign another center back? Maybe, but I think 4 is a pretty solid number, if I'm being honest, Jose. And then you still have Nathan Harriel who could fill in there and play as an emergency center back if need be. So I would be shocked once this deal does become official if the Union go out and sign another center back. I think midfield is where the Union maybe turn their attention to, especially because we had heard from John and Bradley that, yeah, the summertime that they're kind of hoping that Quinn Sullivan, they're go ahead and reassess and see where he's at. And yeah, I don't think you can wait that long for Quinn and not have a midfield replacement. So I wouldn't be shocked if we see a midfielder sign for the Union prior to preseason, which is I think good transition for us right here, Jose, where I'm a little bit shocked by this that Bradley Cornell had admitted that the Union are traveling to Spain yet again. They'll leave on the 17th of January. They'll have 2 or 3 games in Spain, and then they'll head down to Clearwater, Florida to face FC Cincinnati and CF Montreal before they play a CCC game either February 15th, 16th, or 17th. But yeah, Bradley Cornell just straight up saying, yeah, we're heading back to Spain and we're going down to Clearwater.
Yeah, dude, I can't tell you that as soon as that came out of his mouth, I sort of was just like, I was taken back, right? Because this is if I'm not mistaken, Todd, this was very much a not massive, but it was a pretty big marketing beat for the union, right? Of like, there was a social media post, they did a ton of like leading into it. Obviously, Sage Hurley and team and everybody in the social team did a lot while they were there and filming and whatever. But there was a lot of outside of me, I remember when I broke the news that they were going to Spain and the teams that they were playing against. The union did end up obviously continue to announce and whatever, but it felt like there was like a weight behind it. So for Bradley to just say it in the middle of the press conference was kind of kind of neat. I also appreciate him saving us the fake suspense of trying to figure out who they're going to play in Florida, right? And just outright saying who they were going to, how many, the two opponents that they will play in Florida. It's like, okay, there's no guessing. And at this point, it's probably fair to say that maybe it's a pencil in Cincinnati and Montreal every single Florida trip, because it feels like this is the third or fourth year at this point, right? Of those two teams at the very least.
Yeah, and I think nobody's shocked when Jim Curtin was there because of the connection with Chris Albright and Pat Noonan in Cincinnati. So, and they would always play 120 minutes too, regardless of the score. Like they're like, let's go and play 120 minutes. And remember a couple years ago, there was that little skirmish, the little pushing between Cincinnati and the Union, and it was Bupenza, rest in peace, in the mix of it between the Union. I believe he scored a goal, and there was a whole bunch of pushing going on and bad blood for them. And that's what you love to see. These two teams where, okay, let's face it, preseason games don't matter, but just going at it, acting like the game matters. And Bupenza like taking the piss. I think he like chipped Andre Blake or something. I forget the clip. I have to go and look on it, look on social media. But he
It was
scores a goal,
something
and
like
the Union
that.
were not happy. And I
Yeah,
was like,
I
yeah,
think
that's what we want to see.
I think he chipped it and then he walked it in and Glasnost shoved him or something like that. It was something weird, but you're right. That is kind of the fire you want to see in the belly. If anything, the most memorable thing out of the last couple of preseasons, I guess, against Cincinnati specifically, was the interview pre and post game that Corey, I think it's Corey Baird, give out. He's now with San Diego.
Yeah.
But at the time when his first preseason with Cincinnati, he said, "Yeah, they told me that this match is going to be pretty fiery, so I'm excited to play in it. Opponents that we don't like each other, and etc." And then after the game, he's like, "Yeah, that was fucking crazy." Just like I was not expecting that type of match for preseason. That was interesting. So yeah, it's always it's just, to me, it's just so funny that it just outright said what we as press are like trying to figure out, like, who are they playing in off season, because we're so hungry for news at that time, and for Bradley to just ease it into our laps is just fantastic. So much appreciated, Bradley. I'm not sure if you listen or watch or any ways that you get this, but we appreciate you. That was very kind of you to just outright share.
It was. And Vince chimes in and says he went past him and slowed down, waiting for Blake, and then tapped it in backwards. That's exactly what it was. I can see the whole play in my memory. That's exactly what it was. So thank you for that, Vince. But I do want to go back to this question from Shaggy real quick. He says, do you guys have any fears of losing that eye for talent if Tanner leaves, or are the Unions set up with a good scouting department? And I think it was Shaggy, maybe it was somebody else. Earlier in the show, they had asked an update on Ernst Tanner. There is no update on Ernst Tanner. People try to get an answer for that at the press conference, but John said, we're cooperating. We can't give an answer as this is an ongoing investigation. So, yeah, just not sure where things stand with Ernst Tanner. I thought maybe somebody would ask MLS Commissioner Don Garber at the MLS State of the League address, but I don't believe that was asked. And yeah, we'll see once MLS decides, all right, we've either found stuff that credits this report in The Guardian, or Yeah, again, there isn't anything to this, so we shall see. But to your question there, Shaggy, are we concerned? I'll answer that, then I'll let Jose. And I think we'll probably both agree on this. Like the Union are set up really well. Like, and I think it's pretty clear with John Shear, just the continuity, this togetherness from the club. Bradley Cornell comes out and says that, yeah, it's a brain trust of himself, John Shear, Chris Zitterbart, and Matt Radicic all working together as one, really honing in. And John, I think this is the clip I have posted or about to play, talks about how, yeah, we're taking on extra responsibilities, but we want this club to be successful, especially for 2026. And it's not like these guys weren't a part of the deals, the negotiations prior. They've been working hand to hand. And so I don't fear Tanner leaving the Union and then things just going south, like maybe some fans on social media have suggested. Maybe some fans are afraid is going to happen. I don't think that's going to be the case with the Union, just because of how well this team set up structurally. And I don't know who would replace Ernst Tanner. I'm sure that would probably be a question too. Do they go in house? Do they go to Europe? Do they hire somebody in America? I have no clue. But yeah, I just think there's enough talented people here in this organization that are really, really good at their jobs. And yes, Ernst Tanner gets a lot of credit because of what he's been able to do since 2018 with the Philadelphia Union. But there are a lot of really good people in that organization that help Ernst Tanner. And yes, Ernst Tanner has the final say as the sporting director. But yeah, I feel confident with the staff that the Union have set up. Jose, anything you want to add there?
No, I think you're bang on, right? It's pretty clear that the scouting department has been great, will continue to be great, will be great. Um, but where I maybe will push a little bit is at some point, yes, it can be a brain trust, but it really does need to come down to having a spear, right? Who is going to be the tip of the spear? Who is going to be the representative of this all? Who is going to be answering the questions of this all? And I must admit, and listening during this press conference, and maybe it's pretty telling of who came out during that press conference. Like, it's obviously going to be the first team coach, and maybe John Shear is taking that public face, right? Of who is going to be the new Ernst Tanner, or who is going to be the person who is on the spotlight for a lot of these decisions. So John, having been at the team for 7 years at this point, I believe, having really done a lot of work, whether it's academy work, scouting, second team, um, certainly knows his stuff, knows what he's doing. And I don't I'm more intrigued to see, whether, even if it's not, even if the investigation comes out negative, do the Union keep Ernst Tanner anyways? Uh, and if not, is it an internal or is there a national search for a replacement? Because again, I think structurally in a pyramid, there has to be someone up there to kind of, face the music when it comes down to it. So uh, the longer this drags on, the more annoyed I get about it. Just sort of, at this point, if you've investigated it once and now you're investigated again, hopefully it's pretty clear yes or no, and just make a decision so the team, and us as press don't have to spend this time talking about this type of stuff anymore. So it's gonna be a busy off season.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And so, again, since you asked the question, Shaggy, we'll just continue on this topic. Uh, a lot of questions asked about, how this organization's going to work. I mentioned it, Sheer Cornell, Radicic, and Zidabart all taking on that responsibility. We all know, and John Shear had let it been known publicly. I don't think this is any secret that MLS does sign the contracts when the players sign, because the league is in charge of the contracts, not the teams. But then anything else that needs to be signed, it's Matt Radicic signing it as the assistant sporting director. But another thing I want to point about is what I've been talking about, that continuity between all parties and just taking on more responsibilities since Ernst has been placed on administrative leave.
Yeah, look, I think it's our duty to continue to keep this train on the right track, and I think it's something that we were all involved in these conversations and processes to begin with, given how collaborative we need to be, quite frankly, as a club. We are a development club. We're always looking from within first, as I mentioned, for players and staff. So there's so much natural overlap already. But with that said, yeah, we've in this working group are open to taking on more responsibilities again to put the club first and make sure that we're headed in the right direction come 2026.
Yeah, right. I mean, John says it there that we look at staff and we look at players for promoting within first, and then we go outside the box. And if the union don't think they have a player there, then obviously they go out and buy a player. If they feel like they don't have the coach there, they go out and get a coach. We saw the union went out, got Bradley Cornell, replaced Jim Curtin with him. They go out and replace Ryan Richter within, replace Marlon LeBlanc. And so, yeah, the union are always going to look in-house. And we see it even with the academy setup, guys going up to higher age groups, guys going down within the age groups. And so, again, they're not just speaking just to speak. It's facts. It's literal facts. This is what they do. Yes, they do look in-house. Yes, they do promote staff, players within. How many players get homegrown contracts? We know that the union are one of the best at developing talent, identifying talent, getting players into the academy, and so on. And so, again, this staff, this brain trust of the four guys, they're not just sitting on their hands just because their boss is no longer at the organization for the time being. It's like, oh, let's not do anything. Let's wait and see what happens with Ernst Tanner. No, of course, they're going to go out and continue to make deals done. They have their short list. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. It's not like, oh, we're just coming to a decision right now. This is what we need. No, it's month-long processes of scouting, of talking to agents, of finding out the best players that can fit into the system. And so if a deal is close to being done, you have your guys in place to go ahead and get that deal done.
Yeah, and these things take time. These things are planned, and the reality is, I wonder how much has actually really changed since Ernst Tanner departed. Right? Maybe this was the trust, the brain trust that was making decisions anyways, and Ernst was the final check before going on forward in front of ownership, etc. That I wonder if this really just removes one layer of red tape to get things done. So I don't know that much about the inner workings, to be completely honest with you. And if I did, I probably wouldn't even share. So who knows, man? Just intrigued for this to go away in a way. It appropriately, please don't misquote me, but for this to just be a memory rather than something that the club lives through and us in the press and certainly fans have to answer about and talk about, because I still think that this whole thing overshadows a bit of the achievements across the club in terms of what was done in 2025.
Yeah, I agree with you. But let's go ahead and move on to Andrew Rick and just rotation. We had talked about it a couple times, Jose, with being in CCC next year. Leagues Cup, we'd imagine, comes back. Obviously, you're in MLS, so quite a few competitions for the union. You're going to need rotation. It's good to see the union go out there and get business done early, because let's not forget, too, Bruno Damiani was with the club for the first game in Orlando City, but didn't make the match day squad. Was available for the next game against FC Cincinnati. And did he score on his debut? I want to say he scored on his debut against Cincinnati. I don't know if you remember, Jose. Somebody in the comment section, you can fact check me, but I'm pretty sure he scored on his debut. Did he not? I don't know. One of you guys know. I know for sure. But yeah, it's good to see the union being ambitious and going out there and trying to get signings done, deals done before they head off to preseason, so these players can have a full preseason with each other by the time that CCC comes around. Okay, hopefully there is no questions with the new players how we want to play. There is no questions about, okay, this is where your teammates are usually on the field. We'll have everything hopefully worked out for preseason. So it is good to see that the union are getting signings done before they head to Spain. You're going to need a lot of rotations next year, but one spot maybe that caught fans by surprise, and maybe it shouldn't because of how many injuries he's faced the last couple of years. Andre Blake, that's who I'm talking about. We saw Andrew Rick play quite often this season. 6 clean sheets, 7 clean sheets. I know Bradley Cornell mentions it here in this clip I'm about to play, but 14 appearances this season for Andrew Rick. And what a night and day difference, Jose, from the previous season to this season. It was clear as day that Andrew Rick is more than capable of being a number 2. I think he's capable enough of being a starting goalkeeper in MLS, and that's why you and I, weeks on end, had beat the drum saying, loan out Andrew Rick, loan out Andrew Rick, loan out Andrew Rick. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case for the Union next season. But yeah, Andrew Rick, Jose, I mean, it's taken a massive, massive, massive step from the previous season to what he accomplished this season with the Union.
Yeah, you talked about signings and or I should say the needs of the club now with the signings that Alado's done, and as I reported and Merlo reported, the center back Henier Martinez. Um, uh, I'm most intrigued onto what they do with goalkeeper in terms of bringing a third person in, because I'm fairly sure that that's a keeper core that they don't want to be shorter than 4 when you think about Union and Union 2, right? Having 3 with the first team and having a standard backup for, a standing starter for Union 2, and likely a backup that, is that third keeper that sits with the Union. So I kind of not kind of I'm gutted for Andrew in terms of not getting the opportunity to go and play with Frankie earlier this year at the World Cup, but I know that Andrew's likely a player that will continue to grow, that he will continue to attract a lot of attention. I would even go ahead and venture that Rick is probably one of those top prospects for the Union, believe it or not. But and it also begs the question: at what point do you stop calling them prospects? Because he's obviously a good player that could probably start in a good bit of MLS teams across the league at his age with the experience that he has. So. Intrigued to see if the negotiations for George Marks, what those look like. But for Andrew, I that loan train probably came and went, and it all kind of fell apart with the Oliver Semla case, or I guess mistake in a way.
Yeah, I agree with you. But this was Bradley Cornell on Wednesday talking about Andrew Rick and rotation in general.
Yeah, I think that's natural. And I think if you have a look at our cadence of how we've rotated this season, not just with the goalkeeper department, I think it's been a natural progression. And sometimes it was due to Andre's travel. Maybe sometimes some physical aspects going on, but for Andrew to get 14 games and the 6 clean sheets to go along with it, to play a big part in this historical season in many ways, kind of gives us a precursor to what it could look like. But Andre knows exactly what he needs to do. It's a big year coming up for him as well. He's immense in the locker room, his leadership, his quality on and off the field. But there's a big playoff game he's got in March as well, and with their quest for the World Cup. So there's a lot on the line for everybody. But I think we showed a lot of what we can do in this season with all the players we've used.
Yeah, a lot you can potentially read in there with Bradley Cornell's answer on rotation, on Andre Blake, on Andrew Rick. Not going to go ahead and speculate and try to break down word by word, put words in Bradley Cornell's mouth, but The one thing, again, you can't deny is an unbelievable season for Andrew Rick. Again, if this is 2 seasons ago, fans aren't confident watching Andrew Rick, I would imagine, come in for Blake in the game against New York City in the playoffs. Andrew Rick gets thrown in the fire, makes a save right away, and then I believe it was called for offsides. But even with that being offsides, that's exactly what Andrew Rick needed in that moment, was to come up with a big save. You're coming into the game cold. You're not facing any live shots. Yeah, you have Phil Wetton on the side kicking the ball at you, but it's not live action shots. You're getting thrown into the fire. You're already down 1-0. You want to go ahead and keep that score at 1-0. And Rick comes in there and makes that stop, even though it was offsides. And that just ignites the fire. That helps give him confidence. And I think that's the biggest difference that we saw from the previous year to this past season with Andrew Rick is confidence. You get thrown into the fire, like you said, Jose, with Oliver Zemla maybe not living up to par, hoping or being what you had hoped that it would be, because we had Solomon in USL lead the league in clean sheets, be the goalkeeper of the year. We know that USL to MLS, it's a massive jump up. Like MLS Next Pro to MLS is a massive jump up. And so Andrew Rick's learning on the job. But after he gets that experience under his belt, yeah, he knows what to expect coming into the next season. He has that confidence. He has saves. He has moments. He knows how to command that back line. And so it's only a matter of time before Andrew Rick becomes week in, week out starter. I don't know if that's going to be next season. I don't think so, because as Bradley says, yeah, it's the leadership that Andre Blake brings. And Shaggy had asked, does anybody believe that Bedoya will be back next season? Well, if you don't bring back Bedoya, you're losing a big part of that leadership. But you do have multiple leaders in that locker room in Glesnes, Kai Wagner, Blake. But eventually Blake's going to be gone. And I think, I don't know if he would say this, but I think he'd be lying to herself if he would say, yeah, I'm coming to the end of my career. I don't have many moments left. I'm closer to the end than I am at the start. I think that's obvious. And is it this season that Andrew Rick takes the starting spot from Andre Blake? I don't know, but I do feel like it's getting close. Last season taught me a lot, and just watching how the goalkeeper, Jose, the goalkeeping spot has become so modernized. With, you want a goalkeeper that's so good with the ball at the feet. The Maryland game, Mac, the goalkeeper from Maryland, he's a sophomore. We were watching on the throw in. This dude's coming out of his goalie box asking for the ball. And to see a goalie that confidence out of his goal asking for the throw in because he's so good with his feet, I was blown away. I was like, what is he doing? Like, get back in goal. But that's how goalkeepers are, Jose. That's how they're getting coached up, is to be good with their feet. Andrew Rick told us, coming up as an academy player, as a youth player, prior to signing with Union, he was in number 6, a defensive midfielder. That's why he's so comfortable with the ball at his feet. And so you see it more and more. Goalies good with their feet, both feet. Andrew Rick gets an assist last season. And so I do think eventually we see Andrew Rick become the starting goalkeeper, the week in, week out goalie. Because let's not forget too, Andre Blake was in that situation, gets drafted. Zach McMath was here. Who else was on the goalkeeping department? There was 4 goalies on the team. Was Embolo? Was he with the Union when they drafted Andre Blake? I believe so. He definitely, Zach Mack was the starting goalkeeper, but then Andre Blake eventually took that starting spot. So yeah, Blake knows what it's like to lose your starting spot, and again, he'll give everything to keep that spot. But this is what you want to see. You want to see players pushing each other, and there should be no locked in starter in this team. And I don't think so under Bradley Cornell. 29 different starting lineups last season, Jose. It's crazy.
A departure from what we saw with Jim Curtin, that's for sure, right? In terms of starting lineups. I think the only anecdote I'll add about Andrew Rick, and to your points of how modern of a goalkeeper he is because of how good he is with his feet. I remember being with you in the press box and we were watching a game, and I remember poking you and saying, Andrew should probably push up a little bit, get the ball, and ping it to Quinn Sullivan over to the corner because they're just giving him miles of space. And then fast forward, 10 seconds later, they do that. And I think Quinn goes on and gets an assist off of that. And I'm thinking to myself, maybe I do know a little bit of ball, right? Maybe I do understand a little bit about this game. But that's just what Andrew gets you, right? A guy who can ping the ball accurately, that can pass the ball fairly well in a short distance, and ultimately has a ton of experience for his age. So I do wonder if this is the year. But listen, I think it goes without saying, though I will say it out loud, and I hope I'm not speaking for you, Todd, but also sharing the same sentiment that Philadelphia has been unbelievably blessed to have Andre Blake for as long as they have had. Uh, that they have been fortunate to have watched the things that Andre Blake has done um, between the sticks, and I have fallen for the Andre Black mistake at a press conference in the past. So Andre Blake has been just an incredible servant to the club, and I think if not Bedoya, probably the easiest next shoe in for the Ring of Honor. Like I would even think that Andre Blake goes beyond Bedoya in terms of Ring of Honor when it comes to walking in and getting on there right away.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this isn't to discredit by any means, and hopefully, if this gets to Andre Blake, hopefully he doesn't take it that way because I know what he's meant for this club. He's easily over the years saved the Union 12 to 14 points a season, earned them 12 to 14 points a season. Been one of the best goalies. You can make the case the best ever goalie in MLS, and his game had been taken to another level once Phil Whedon joined this team, and that's what you get with somebody like Phil Whedon. He's always going to bring out the best in you. We saw it with Andrew Rick this season. We saw it with Andre Blake when Phil first joined. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful to see what Andre's done in the club. And again, the end of his career is a lot closer than the beginning of his career. And so I know some people say about other clubs, because this player's been here for so long, they should get the chance to decide when it's time for them to stop playing. And I get that, but again, no player is bigger than the club. And just look at everything that's going with Mohamed Salah in Liverpool right now. I mean, what a mess that is. A club legend just completely unleashing it all to the media, saying that his relationship with the manager is broken, saying that it seems like somebody at the club wants him out. And yeah, I mean, that's a club legend. I see some Liverpool fans are torn, saying that, fire Slot, keep Salah. I'm seeing some fans say get rid of Salah, keep Slot. I'm seeing some fans say get rid of Salah and Slot. So I mean, look, we know what Andre Blake means to the Philadelphia Union. We know what Alejandro Bedoya means to the Philadelphia Union. But Father Time's undefeated, and sooner rather than later, it's going to be Andrew Rick as the starting goalkeeper. So that's pretty much all I have to discuss. Everything I wanted to share about the end of the season. Alado, the new signing that hopefully gets announced this week, next week, hopefully before Christmas. I mean, 2 signings before Christmas. What a holiday for Philadelphia Union fans. I mean, reminds me of the season where they signed Sergio Santos and Jose Martinez before Christmas. So maybe the Philadelphia Union do it again.
That would be nice, and if anything, I appreciate that. Again, from that press conference, we have dates to work back from, right, in terms of January 17, and likely they'd probably play their first game the 18th or the 19th. I would think, a day or so to acclimate to the time zone, etc. The time change, but no, this was great, Todd. It's always a joy to join you, and man, yeah, I honestly didn't think that we'd have much to talk about today, but that end of season press conference and certainly today's news, and likely I'm sure something else will pop up between now and then that will have us back here having another good conversation. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and we'll let you end it secondly. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, where we get your podcast of the Free Kick. Check out the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod, where you can watch the podcast live every single episode, youtube.com/Free Kick Pod, for the goals breakdown video as well. I'm pretty sure I did that twice. And if you guys want to check out my writing, goals breakdown video, or the podcast all in one place, the freekick.substack.com. Now, Jose, where can people follow you?
You can find me at Jose R. Nunes 91 on Twitter, Blue Sky as well. I'm trying to be better about using that more. I know that there's a big subset of the population that moved over that way from X. And thank you to the kind soul, whoever it is, that shares my content on Reddit, where I'm not living there as much anymore. Not so much, unless it's a unless it's a Marvel theory about the next movie and the next show or whatever. I'm not living on Reddit as much as I used to anymore. So appreciate you all for sharing my work and Todd's work for sure, and certainly the work that Mike and I are trying to figure out what it looks like next year in terms of we have some big ideas for what the pre and post match show could be that I think will excite a lot of people and will require a lot of engagement from people, whether you're at the stadium or at home. So more to come on that front from AAT Sports.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last thing I'll say before I end the stream is I set a goal a couple months ago. I said, let's get to 500 subs on YouTube before the end of the season. We're at 404. We're at 96. I know it's a tough ask, but I do think we can get there. I do think we can get to 500. You guys haven't let us down. You guys won't let us down yet. So let's try to get to 96 more subs and we'll be at 500. And I did get a whole bunch of information from Spotify for the listeners, and we can talk about that next episode, Jose. A lot of positive trending numbers for the listenership, new subscribers, people listening to the podcast all over the world, which is so surprising to me. Apparently we have a big audience in Mexico, which is mind-blowing to me. I don't know why. Maybe that's because of you, Jose. I see South America is popping off too. I haven't seen Bolivia, but Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil all popping off, and maybe that's because of you, Jose. I don't know, but yeah, we're definitely international, and all the people that watch, I'm very, very grateful for you guys. And again, we can go over those numbers next episode, but the chat, you guys make the best part of the show. People that leave comments back, yeah, you guys are the best, and I appreciate you. Jose saying one more.
Special announcement from Don Garber in Florida this Tuesday, December the 9th. What do you think it's going to be?
Oh, Messi MVP. Without a doubt. They haven't announced it yet.
That's the one award that's missing yet, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be
talking Messi. We're ending the episode talking Messi. It's going to be MVP.
I thought it maybe could be that somehow, because it would help it so much, somehow Inter Miami gets into Copa Libertadores next year, playing in CONMEBOL in a way instead of CONCACAF Champions Cup.
I mean, that would be awesome.
That would be. I would watch the shit out of that.
I mean, Miami would absolutely get waxed, but it's going to be Messi winning MVP. Oh, dude. I mean,
that would be fun.
As much as I don't like Miami, I would love to see that, just to watch them get slaughtered. Because let's face it, the way that the roster rules are right now, there's no way that Inter Miami's competing with the best of the best clubs in South America. I mean, they struggled this past season in CONCACAF Champions Cup, got demolished by Vancouver. And I don't think that scoreline against Vancouver on Saturday justified what the final end game was. But, oh my God, dude. I hope I'm wrong, but it's definitely going to be Messi's MVP. But can you imagine, playing in Copa Libertadores? Well, Miami stands zero chance. Zero chance.
Yeah, it would be fast. All right, finish the show. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. So, yeah, I know, Michael. No blunder of the week. No blunder of the week. Maybe we'll do it next episode. Maybe because I didn't do blunder of the week, that should be blunder of the week. But look, an hour and 4 minutes. We said 45 minutes. Try to keep it close to that. flying through the topics. Yeah, it was never going to happen. But I thought an hour was possible, but Jose got me going on a rant, but it's all good. So we'll see you guys the next time there's big news. If not, then our regular scheduled show on Sunday. But with that said, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.